I woke up on the side of the road getting CPR, needing to be Narcaned on 4 separate occasions. The pain of, I know I'm better than what I'm doing, but I keep doing it over and over. You just feel so small and judged. If you just hang on, 1 year from now, you'll be absolutely mind blown at what your life is.
After I have that first one, I'm no longer in control. I really wanted to quit. And then I would wake up the next morning and have no choice. I'd lost my identity and I didn't know who I was. I just had nothing left. And I needed help so bad. It all came down on me. I could not pull myself out of it. I had hit rock bottom. I just knew I was gonna die. And I remember just praying that foxhole prayer, like, God, please just get me through this moment. I'll stop doing bad. I will stop everything. The goal of my podcast is to not only educate people on, mental health, but also let people know that they're not alone.
Olivia, welcome.
Hi, Kevin.
How was your drive from Jersey?
Yeah, good.
Is it Central Jersey?
Yes, not bad.
Where? Come on, fill us in.
Central Jersey. Coastal.
Central Jersey.
Yeah.
But you don't look like you're from like the Jersey Shore or anything.
No, not like coastal. I just mean like not like the middle of nowhere, like a little suburb.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not from Jersey. You don't give off Jersey vibes.
I don't give off Jersey vibes.
No.
Woodbridge, New Jersey. Is that what you were going for? You
Yeah.
needed a town?
Yeah,
I was holding off trying not to give you one.
I needed a town. I know Jersey.
It's like a regular, schmegular suburb.
Are you from there originally?
Yeah, no, grew up there. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what was childhood like? Did you grow up with siblings?
Yeah, I have a brother. Very regular childhood until it wasn't. I had a mom, dad, regular little house. Went to school, had friends, played sports, and it was very normal. I didn't really... It's just regular. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, your
it
typical American family. What sports did you play?
Softball was my jam. Wiffle ball queen. Baseball with the boys when I was little. That was my thing.
Were you shortstop?
How'd you know?
Were you really?
Yeah.
I got like very nimble vibes from you, like just bouncing around.
Yeah. Now my knees are gonna fall off. But back in the day. No, normal until it wasn't. Like, I hate to be like divorced because I feel like it's not a cop out for anything, but it was something when I was 8. My parents were getting divorced, and that's kind of what opened a can of worms to like what everything was to change from there, or like what unsurfaced from that. For me, it came out my dad was an addict, alcoholic, gambling addict as well, and that's kind of when things changed and stopped being super normal. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is your brother older than you or younger?
Younger, 4 years.
He's younger by 4. All right, so you are 8 years old when your parents get divorced and your brother is 4.
Yeah.
So at 8 years old, I feel like you know what's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
You have memories of when your mom and dad were together. And what was the feeling like for you? Did you maybe take on some of the burden, although it probably had nothing to do with you, that your parents got divorced?
Honestly, I feel like no. Like, I don't think that was anything I ever struggled with. It was more or less like losing that dynamic because I was really close to my dad. He had me most of the time. My mom worked days, just like how it worked out. So then going from like somebody that was like your guy, we're always fishing, we're always playing sports, doing this thing, and then finding out like he actually sucks, and it's not, he doesn't suck because he was an addict. Like, I'm an addict too, but more or less the continuous behaviors, and my mom didn't divorce him, we'd lose the house, and he was broke and now lived in these divorced dad apartments on steroids, like barely any furniture. We didn't like feel embarrassed asking him for a chocolate bar at 7-Eleven because like, you don't know if he has money today. So like that kind of created an anxiety and almost like put him in a new light because it's like, well, what happened here,
Yeah.
So
that's a tough burden though, like as a young child, not knowing whether you could, ask for something because you don't know if your father could, pay for it because he's gambling. Right. But also too, there is a sense of, I get what you're saying. Oh, he had the bug, you have the bug, but I mean, we're here today because you are sober. Like
Right.
you have done something about it. How long did this go on for with your father? Is he still gambling today or?
I haven't seen him in a decade. I spoke to him for the first time in 6 months yesterday, and he never met my children. He said, "Hi, how are the kids? Dolphins are doing really good this year." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. I get it.
And then your mother owes me all my child support back. You know, it's the same song and dance every time. So, like, some people just, he's one of those people that no accountability ever, you know?
Yeah.
But we'll get there. But,
Yeah.
so yeah.
What was high school like?
Well, I started drinking in middle school. Like, I was 14 when I drank for the first time. Very immediately was like, oh, yeah, this is it, you know? So then I stuck around with people that were drinking young, and I did that for a while. Was obsessed immediately, like hyper fixating on when are we going to get alcohol again to do this again. So I kind of already noticed there was a difference between me and the people around me. And so like going into high school, I already had friends that were willing to drink and do that kind of thing. So then that's where I met people that would do other things, you know, and I was very rebellious. I prided myself in being a rebel, very impulsive. I was a really good student in honors classes, but would be the first one to try the drug at the party. Like run-ins with the cops, suspended all the time, getting like really good test scores. Like it didn't, until I didn't, you know, but I was kind of like confusing to myself and everybody else because it's like, what are you doing? So that was high school, kind of actually. In high school was actually the first time I tried opiates. That's when blues were big, oxys, and just came around one day as a new thing. You know, a couple of us split them. It was like a Friday night football game at the high school thing where you like split a pill, and then, you know, we were obsessed. We were splitting them to doing them every day, you know? So like by 17, I had already been in a couple adolescent detoxes because I convinced myself and my mom, I just need to get off these pills. I'm addicted to these pills, but like I was never done with everything else. Like I'm still a party girl. I want to go to West Virginia because it's the #1 party school. So like I was very far from getting better, and I didn't realize it at the time because of what I was doing.
So you were doing pills recreationally from the very beginning. There wasn't an injury, or it was just someone came across oxys and you guys were splitting pills.
Yeah.
That's interesting. A lot of the time you hear about an injury, but I feel I think you're 8 years behind me or whatever. My year when I was in high school, that's when I was first introduced to painkillers as well, but it was an injury. And then I feel like opiates just got so bad over the next 10 years after I graduated high school that it was like one of the recreational drugs to do. Oh, yeah. Which is scary.
And it wasn't so much my grade. It was the older kids, like the recently graduated. But I had like found my way in with these people because we'd be like drinking, and then, you know, you meet so-and-so and then you find out they do what. So then before you know it, there's like a ton of people in my town like in deep with these pills.
Yeah.
So
was it original OxyContins at this time, or was it the blues? The blues. The Percocets.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because
I almost didn't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Isn't that, what's the difference?
So, yeah, so you
like, remember the M's?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so that's
those are Roxy blues. Those are OxyContin.
I'm a little late.
Sorry, we're going to educate the audience really quick.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm
no,
literally
because
just trying to
this is
figure
relevant, and I'll tell you why. So, Dope Sick. Did you see that documentary?
I couldn't watch it.
Docuseries. It was triggering?
No, not triggering. It like made me
depressed.
Yeah, like I have to watch like real documentaries. Like it was like a reenactment.
Yeah, it was.
I couldn't do it.
It was sad.
Yeah.
So that was about Purdue Pharma when they were pushing OxyContin. OxyContin came around, I believe, in, don't quote me on this, 97, 98, 99. And then it became like it started to flood 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005 is when I did my first one. And then they basically had from 5 milligram up to 80, well, 5, 10, 20, sorry, 5 up to 80. And then they came out with a 160 milligram pill. So I was doing them, and then they took them off the market in, I believe, 2011-ish.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And then they ripped them right off the market. Then the FDA stepped in and was like, this is enough. Like, this is heroin in a pill. And it's cleaner heroin. It's clean heroin in a pill.
Yeah.
And then they... Roxy 30s were always, oxycontins were always a thing, but then they became much more prevalent. Yeah, the thing at that time once OxyContin went away. And then the reason I want to share all of this is because for the listener, and I don't want this to be triggering to anyone, then they started doing pill presses now with fentanyl.
Oh yeah,
with Percocets.
I've taken somebody to the ER from that. Yeah.
And if there are people that are struggling right now with fentanyl and with opiates and not knowing what you think you're getting a Percocet 30, you potentially could be getting a fentanyl pressed pill that looks exactly like it, feels exactly like it, and the texture is exactly like it. So
it's terrifying what
it's
they
scary.
can do now. Yeah. So I've done projects for school, for example, on this kind of topic, and like Purdue Pharma actually put like the stuff they would give doctors like to promote the drug. They'd have like bucket hats that said Oxy, literally. They said it was a miracle drug. People weren't going to get as addicted to it. It was like this newfound miracle that was less addictive, and it ended up creating this whole massive issue. But anyway, because that's what happens when the things are unregulated. Everybody, they're everywhere, became addicted.
Yeah, it's an epidemic, and it's crazy. There were all those lawsuits against the Sackler family who who made OxyContin. Okay, so you're now. Did you go to West Virginia?
No, I went to rehab. I didn't even make my graduation. I graduated high school, but I wasn't there physically. I was in a South Florida detox.
I'm laughing out of identification. I'm not laughing at you. Your story's
amazing.
amazing.
Do you think I'm offended?
No, I know. I did why I'm identification.
No, my prom, So in this whole like mess of when I first started going away, well, the more important thing is like I reconnected with my dad in the midst of all this. I'm in and out of detoxes, and my mother's like, I guess, telling him what I'm doing. So then he calls me one day and asks if I can get my uncle Oxys, Roxys, whatever. And he would give me extra money to do it. So of course I'm going to do it because I need money. So I do it. We do that a couple times till eventually I call him out on it. I'm like, I know they're not for my uncle, they're for you, right? So then I find out he's doctor shopping, playing the system, going to the pharmacies like, I'm due for them here. I can use my insurance here. This doctor, I can get a script from here, like paying cash, that whole thing. Like literally within when it was like that, where doctors were just like taking cash only and you were getting scripts. So I joined in on that with him. So it turned into like I had the car. My dad didn't have a car. Like, so what, I had people like my dealers would buy from my dad so we can make money back to pay this, get more, like the whole whatever. And then the same night I'd be paying full price at the dealer we just sold the script to. Because you're just literally robbing Paul to pay, whatever that saying is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then this is like me and my dad, like Bonnie and Clyde. Like it was ridiculous. And it was like a whole thing. It wasn't done to be making money. It was done to survive with our own addictions. And he benefited from me and I benefited from him. So now father-daughter became a mutually beneficial relationship, literally on drugs, all surrounding the use of, when we were really out, I had started messing with heroin. I think even at some point I was only doing heroin and I'd be getting it for him, or like my mom would be on to me. So I'd go to his apartment to use, and it was a toxic mess. And that'll really do something to your brain wiring of like like daddy issues. Like I joke about daddy issues all the time, but like, yeah, daddy issues, like, so no wonder I dated all these idiots later on. But you know what I mean? Like just how that happened. Eventually my dad, something happened. He said something with the DEA. I couldn't tell you the details. I don't want to make stuff up. Something happened. He left. He moved. I haven't seen him since. But I'll never forget, like, driving him to Newark Airport. He's got, like, his pill bottle. He's, like, counting his last pills, giving me my last few. And, like, so excited to move to where his buddy was in Arizona. And they were going to, like, keep this up. And, like, I'm left hanging here with a full-blown, very expensive habit. And, like, good looks. Like, take care of yourself. You know what I mean? So, like, that's how that ended.
That's got to be very confusing for you. Like, it's your running partner, essentially, and your father.
He would carry his MRI around in a manila folder, and every time, like, it'd be, like, my friends, he would whip the manila folder out with his MRIs and show everybody his C-spine. This is why he needs his medicine, like, because he felt guilty for being a part of this, and he'd show everybody, like, I need my medicine because I have herniated discs. Like, yo, what?
Yeah. To justify what was going on.
Yeah, just like a sick human. He's sick, you know?
Yeah. So, okay. So this goes on. Are you still doctor shopping? And were there any consequences there with the doctor shopping?
No, I wasn't doctor shopping.
Okay.
I was
you were paying people and
I was bringing him to do all that. Driving him here, getting the money for the script. I was helping in that area. I never went to the doctor. I was on heroin before 18, solely.
How'd you jump to heroin? Just
Couldn't
there were
find
no
the
pills?
They connected the pharmacies in the midst of this. So it was harder. And that's when everybody else started doing it. I don't got that, but I got this. And you're like hurting, whatever, you know? It's crazy.
So, okay, how long does the usage go on for? This is what, 2013, 2014?
Yeah.
You're like 18,
I graduated
19?
in 2013.
Okay.
So that's when I left the state to go to rehab.
Okay.
I'm not going to bore you with an entire play-by-play of my whole experience, but it involved Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Florida, back to Connecticut, back to Florida. Literally, like, a mess. Several ODs at that point. Needing to be Narcaned on 4 separate occasions the whole time. Like, I'm very lucky. I'll never forget, like, one of the bad ODs, I woke up on the side of the road getting CPR from a nurse that pulled over, and I just switched seats with my boyfriend at the time. I let him drive. And I was on the highway, like a route, not like a parkway, but like whatever, a local highway. And I woke up, and like if I didn't switch seats with him, I would have been driving. You know what I mean? So I'm so lucky, and that's like a trend throughout. So like I'm not missed on like that. I'm very lucky. But I'm just like kind of speaking to the chaos of it all and like the pain I kept putting myself in over and over again. Not willing to really listen to what everybody was telling me to do or really call it a day, and just like the pain of I know I'm better than what I'm doing, but I keep doing it over and over.
The insanity.
Yeah.
The insanity of it.
Yeah.
If I just get this, it'll be better. If I just do this, it'll be better. If I change this, it'll solve my problem.
Or the real feeling of not knowing genuinely how life will be lived without it.
The fear.
Yes. Like, I cannot do this without it. So, in the midst of all that, I felt like such scum, because I'm living like this, dirtbag that I know I'm not, and not feeling so less than other people, but like wanting to scream at the same time. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. I just can't stop, So.
Did you go to treatment before this time sober now? Like, did you start this sobriety stint going away inpatient?
No.
So you went right to meetings immediately.
The last sobriety stint, 2018, a little over 6 years now. I had been clean for almost a year and used for 5 days. And in those 5 days, I think I clotted every vein on my body and ended up in the hospital with an infection. And, got out of a relationship with a guy that didn't want to stop using, and it was very toxic, ended in a restraining order, and I had a daughter at this point. So it was a new low of now I'm a mom and this ain't it. No pain was ever worse. Like the consequences weren't as bad. I didn't end up not knowing where I was going to sleep. Like it wasn't one of those like it was like in Florida or whatever. It was like a new one where mentally and I was just done. And I had been in meetings for years at that point. So it's like I fell right back on that, you know?
Yeah. This was in 2018?
Yeah.
What's your sobriety date?
May 21st.
2018?
Yeah.
I'm February 19th, 2018.
There we go.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, okay. What was it like overcoming that? Yeah, you had used for 5 days after being clean for a year. So your detox probably wasn't all that crazy. Mm-hmm. But mentally, I mean, there's still a detox as well. Anytime you're putting down any kind of mood or mind altering substance. Walk us through what your first 90 days was like getting sober. You made the decision, you hit a new low, you have a child now, you go back into meetings with your tail between your legs.
Yeah.
What was the first few months like?
I was so upset at what I had done as far as relapsing. I was so upset about this relationship because I was very good at replacing that need for a drug with a person, and that was my person, and it happened to be like a narcissistic situation. So I was just, I'll take just about anything over a narcissist. I'd rather chill with a serial killer than a narcissist. I swear to you, like, so it was like so many things coupled in one that it was so brutal, but I had so many people in my life that had recovery with years. Like I was very lucky that I had several women with years that were close to me. So it's not like I just like came out this and like had to build from the bottom up. I already had a foundation with these people and I clung like a starfish to them, and the amount of phone calls, and I can't even imagine being them with the stuff I was probably saying, because you could have looked at my situation and been like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But until you make the decision to stop doing that, it's good. You can't tell anybody. Can't tell me anything, you know? So I really just hung on and just was like, I had so many stories collected at that point of people that had been through so much worse and so that they could do it. So I was like literally miserable, I think, for a solid 90 days.
But you had hope because you heard those stories of other people that were in different situations and they were able to get sober. So you knew it was possible.
Yes, I knew it would come. And that was the first time I really was like, we are going to hang on with all our might here until, you know, I get there to like some semblance of being okay.
That's amazing. And so we talk about this a lot on my podcast, community, and not doing it alone. For a very long time, I felt like I was alone and that, you know, there was no solution. And being with other people that have experienced the same feelings that I have experienced, and I hear their feelings and I can relate to their feelings, enables me then to, you know, do it together as that community. Because obviously doing it with a group of people versus by yourself is much different.
Yeah.
For the better, of course. So, okay, so you're sober. Are you working? You have your daughter? Are you back living at home? What did that rebuilding process look like for you in the first year?
I had lived back home in New Jersey ever since I had gotten pregnant when I was 20 in Florida with a guy that was in recovery, kind of in and out, both of us. That I turned into a single mom about a month after she was born, and my mom, who said, "You're never coming home," let me come home, thank God. So I shared a room with my daughter until she was 4. And I went back to, I waitressed, and then I went back to school. And in the midst of that, I had like 11 months clean, use once. 9 months, use once. So it's like, for those 3 years, I hadn't been like in full-blown addiction, more or less just like little tidbits. But like I said, the last one was bad. And I went back to school right after the relapse. My like program had gotten into had started, so I'm like freshly clean again. Finally out of this relationship because of a restraining order that literally kept me from even reaching out to him. It's a blessing in disguise because I couldn't stop myself being like, you're wrong, like that chaos.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
When did you start looking at, obviously, these are different symptoms, drugs, alcohol. Some people gamble. Some people put gambling down and start sleeping with a million people. Some people like food. Some people just Netflix, anything. Those are symptoms. When did you start to look at the core and where this was coming from?
That's a good question. So I feel like I took something from every treatment center, every therapist. It was very gradual. For the first couple of years, I would do the same thing in treatment, to be the therapist asking about my family dynamics. I'd be like, I don't care about my dad. I don't want to talk about him. Like, I understand it's not whatever. It was like, but it doesn't affect me. Like, I genuinely meant it. I don't want to talk about it. Like, I could not see for a while how some kind of dynamic or coming from that could affect you, as far as like I had no coping skills. My anxiety was through the roof. Learning that, they always said you have an impulse disorder and depression because nobody could put the pieces of the puzzle together, that it was raging ADHD just because I was good in school. They just, whoop.
Yeah.
Because like women and girls with ADHD, it's an inward hyperactivity, which, for the love of God, I can relate to. So that was brushed over. So like, I was like uncovering little by little of like trust issues and very, very low self-esteem. So and then being in meetings and like hearing other people's stories, and then slowly like being able to take accountability. Because at first it was like I blamed everybody else for a while, was the way I was. And now like it morphed into, no, I make my own choices. Like, these situations happen to me, but I am the only one responsible for my reaction to it. I'm not like queen maturity all the time. Like, I'm saying that now, but like today I really will take accountability for everything that I do, So I feel like it was literally just a process. And then having people with years of recovery in my circle was the best thing I could have ever done. I think I'm getting off the topic of what you asked, but it just, they would kind of be like, do you think maybe that's your brain trying to fix and manage and control the situation? You'd be like, yeah, I guess so. So it was like kind of a process.
Yeah, you needed those
time.
people around you too, who had time to help guide you in the right direction and stay on track. And, anytime there were any kind of like defects of yours, chiming in or trying to control a situation or whatever, or justify a situation, that ultimately helped you take accountability.
Yeah.
And that is another thing that pops up on this podcast all the time. People's lives start to change once they start taking accountability for their actions. For themselves, and it's a turning point. It really is. And for me, once I started taking accountability, once I started owning my actions, because there are consequences for all actions that you do take, and we're adults. You said it before, not verbatim, but you said something along the lines of, like, everyone else around you wants you to stop, but ultimately it's your decision. And when you do it, that's when it'll stop.
Yeah.
And that's part of that accountability and those actions and the consequences, and it all comes together.
Right.
And then you start to build, once you do those things in recovery, then you have responsibilities. And it's like, wow, I have this job. Wow, I'm part of this. Wow, people are depending on me. You're moving yourself further away from the next drink or drug.
Yeah. And I think another thing, I don't know where I picked this up from. I didn't make it up, but somebody said something I started implementing, which was huge. It was like, before I went to go do something, what was my intention? What was my intention? I'm like recovering from a C-section at one point, and I was in a lot of pain, and they had offered me narcotics, and my head was torn on whether or not to take them. And I had spoken to somebody in the rooms, and they said, well, what's the intention? Is it the pain? Are you in that much pain that you need them? Or maybe not. And I was like, yo, maybe not. So that was it. I didn't take them. You know what I mean? So then I took that, and I'd be like, what's my intention with, saying this or doing this? And that kind of helped in another way. Because I was like being honest with myself. Like, am I doing this because I'm trying to get myself into a getting myself near somebody that's going to take me down some whatever, or, am I being genuine?
That is so hard I commend you on that.
Yeah.
That's like, everyone's like, oh, it's a freebie, free. But no, like if I take a painkiller, I had shoulder surgery in 2016. So I was sober before. Very similar story to yours. I'd get like a little bit of time, then I'd go out a little bit of time. And I had 3 years, and then I had shoulder surgery. And I was put on Percocet again. And I was in sobriety. I wasn't spiritually fit. And because I wasn't spiritually fit, I thought I was in a good place and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I took that first Percocet and it hit me. Not to trigger, but that feeling.
Yeah, no,
And
it reignites something that some people take and they go, I don't like that feeling. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
So
the one
that's the
blanket
differences.
feeling.
Right.
Yeah. And I went off to the races for a year. And then that's when I came back. And it was, my intentions were not in the right place. They actually said to me when I had shoulder surgery, I told them, I was very honest with them about my addiction history. And they said to me, if you want, you can come back every day for a week. The pain is excruciating for your first week. Come in here. We'll give you, it's not called an epidural. Like women get epidurals when they do it for your shoulder. It numbs out everything. Right. They said, come here every single day to the hospital. We'll do it for you. And I'm like, no, why would I do that?
Yeah. Well,
that's dishonesty.
Right. And that's the story of so many people of like medical things not causing, but like giving people exposure to these pills, blah, 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 something that drove me insane as somebody in recovery. For example, that same C-section, my epidural didn't work the first time the anesthesiologist did it. So I requested he come back in. Like, I am in a lot of pain. I am 20 years old. I am scared, and I am not okay. I was in the room alone when he came in, and I will never forget it. It is a core memory. I could still see it. He stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed, and went, it's not going to go to your head. You know that, right? So it was like, here I am this small again because the doctor knows my history, and he's assuming I'm asking for my epidural to be fixed to get a head high. And, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out, and I told the doctor, no narcotics. Pre-visit again, right before the surgery, no narcotics. The nurse. So we sent the doctor sent the hydrocodone to the pharmacy. I'm like, no narcotics. I can't even tell you how many times. I go home, I get a call from Walgreens that my hydrocodone's ready.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
It was like insane the amount of like advocacy I'd had, and then I just didn't get it. If that happened to me now, I'd be like, that did happen to me actually. After my second daughter, they sent pills. I just never picked them up. But like, I was still not okay, or kind of not as strong yet.
Yeah.
And there's just so many themes of like that kind of thing happening. I had to have a procedure done, and they were going to put me with light sedation. Just got clean, and it was like fentanyl. I had asked. He said it's fentanyl. I was like, no. He's like, we could do general anesthesia, but they're not available till December. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And he got mad at me and said, you can't just use it one time. I think the medical student in the room almost fell over. So I think that's something to be said too, is like, that needs to change in the world, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's something that drives me nuts. I work in the hospital. I see it. I can relate to being the addict in the hospital, that you just feel so small and judged. And I try my best to like not be that person to them, but like, I don't think people understand how in certain settings you could really make it worse, and like you're not supposed to. Like, your purpose is to make it better, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but like it got to the point I didn't want to disclose because it, chalk everything up to that as well.
Yeah.
So
where are you at? Can you walk us through how you got to where you're at today, and what have you done to stay sober and clean these past 6.5 years or so?
Sorry, you could tell we were raised differently because I always use clean. It's just like in my brain, you use sober, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's the same thing. I don't want to take credit for it because I did my end, but I really had so much help. And I like love the beginning of your podcast when you say letting people know they're not alone, right? I can't express how that is like the key of all of this. Because when I went from so isolated in my head, and everything, and then realize there's actual terms for what I'm experiencing. Like, it's real. I'm not just so defective. Like, there's reasons why I'm doing the things I'm doing. And then you meet other people that completely get it. Like, that's the credit. You know, the people that cared enough to help me. Obviously, I also didn't use again. So, like, that, it was, you know, leaning on my friends. Still do at any given time. I'm always on the phone with somebody. One foot in front of the other. Met my husband in the midst of this. You know, finally not a toxic relationship.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
That was an accident. Thank you. I did nothing right there. That one fell into my lap. You know, going back to school, taking pride in, like, slowly learning, like, I am capable. Like, that part of me I had lost in active addiction, like, is still there. Like, I am capable of, like, making a goal and completing it, you know, finding purpose in that. You know, going back to school again to further it or get a new one. You know, just kind of like, I don't know if that answers the question. Like,
no, absolutely.
There's so many things.
Yeah, it's tough to name them all.
Yeah.
I get it, but thank you for sharing all that, and I like how this probably sounds just, you know, like nothing huge, but you talked about creating a goal and completing it. I was the king of half measures.
Yeah.
I was the king of starting things and just, you know, gung-ho in the beginning and that's it. Or if I wasn't good at it, I want no part of it.
Yes.
And I feel like any addict or alcoholic to start something or create a goal, chase it, go after it, complete it, and achieve it, that's a huge step.
Well, what about the creating the goal and then you're not fulfilled by the completion of the goal? And that's how I'm in a second career program. No, but I know what you're saying, because I'm the same way. It's like, if I hyperfixate on something, but if it's not, I can deter from it. So like, I'm with you on that. And I do that now. Big hyperfixate. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get into doing this. And then, you know, sitting in the closet, like, yeah. Absolutely. But you have to, but I also think it's a superpower at the same time, because it's like, when you really want something, like, you are not stopping me. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, thrive in adversity. I thrive in adversity. I thrive in adversity and suffer in silence, if that makes sense. If things are just regular, I am internally chaotic. If I am, like, striving for a goal and it's chaotic and it's hard, I am in. Yes. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. When my back is against the wall, I'm so comfortable. I'm like, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to do it.
Right.
I know I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm confident in myself. Yeah, watch me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But when, like, so that's something I feel like I also battled too, because that happened to me. I, like, had this goal, I wanted this job, and I got it, and I was, like, comfortable in it, and I was getting somewhere, and then I was like, well, everything's really regular. Let's spice it up and have 2 kids and go to a really intense program and, like, do this kind of thing, you know? But, like, so it's like my addict tendencies, you can also, and ADHD, you can have, like, I have some gratitude for that, because I feel like it gives me that as well. I don't know. It's like, it's not always the worst thing in the world. Or just finding, like, the positive in it. Like, yeah, I made myself suffer all those years and did all this stuff and, like, went through hell and chaos. But it also allows me to do and operate the way I do now, which benefits me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
how have you been able to come to terms? Was there a lot of shame growing up? And how have you been able to come to terms with some of the shameful things? Because I feel like that's a roadblock for a lot of people sometimes, and people can't get past that, and it keeps them relapsing. You know, like mine and your story, you get the 9 months out, year out, you know, people just kind of stay in that cycle because there's still unaddressed shame that they don't deal with.
100%. And that was such a barrier, because I X'd myself out from the people around me and would isolate and relapse. So yes, right? Like, my last relapse when I woke up to 2 police officers in my town, in my ex's basement, and then they leaked the report to everybody we went to high school with. So now the whole town knows all over again. So the shame is just like compounding. Like, oh, I felt horrible. Like, you don't know how you're going to make it. Like, that's how I felt. I didn't know how I was going to make it out of that one. Done a lot of shameful stuff. That one hurt. It was honestly just, it kind of like turned. Like, I used to feel like the addict in the room. I'd go into normal spaces in like a work environment and professional environment. And even though nobody knew my history, I still felt like the addict in the room, like the black sheep. And over time of just not using, staying clean, gaining confidence, one step in front of the other, like I was able to kind of release that until recently. Like I could never imagine speaking on a podcast about the stuff I'd done. The shame was incredible. Like now I really think it's important for people to hear, like you said, because if it was accessible to listen to somebody like me years ago, I think it would have been huge. But I feel like it wasn't as much of a thing. So being able to hear, like, you can be a normal person and not, like, some psycho and really struggle with these things and then listen to how it's not like that anymore, that's enough to kind of, like, release shame, too, you know?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. I feel like when you're putting light on shameful things, even if it's someone else's light, them talking about it in a podcast and me, let's just say I'm in the grips of addiction, listening to the podcast and I'm relating to the feelings that they're talking about, the shameful feelings, and they're putting light to it. That also makes me, well, I shouldn't have to feel so bad about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Or like having grace for others lets you have it for yourself.
Exactly.
I've been able to see people like, in the grips, you know, and say to them, like, if you just hang on, like it happened to me, if you just hang on and it's going to suck, it's going to. If you're out there, it sucks. It's unavoidable, but it doesn't suck forever. It's a temporary suck period of your life. And then the outcome is so much better. I've said like 1 year from now, if you do these, just don't, right? Use, drink, do the right thing, like listening to people or like take the help. 1 year from now, you'll be absolutely mind blown at what your life is. And it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. It's just, wow, I wake up and just, I'm not rushing to go find something. That was huge. And it's so true.
Yeah. The inner peace.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still chaotic, but the inner peace.
Not always like, just like
Woosah.
thrilled to be alive, you know, but like, it's nothing compared to that. Where am I going to get this from today? And I can't live without it. Like what, you know?
Do you incorporate meditation into your life today?
No.
No? You're not a meditator. Are you a prayer?
My brain doesn't shut up. Not prayer. I'm not like so I'm the person in the rooms that like when you hear God, I kind of replace it with something. Because for me, it's not my thing. But I'm a believer in like universe. You do the right thing, good things occur.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be bad stuff or like always finding the reason for the bad things or like, thank God, you know, that happened because then this wouldn't have happened. So like I kind of use that just like do the right, you know, karma almost.
Like spirituality in a way.
Just like being a good person or trying. Or again, if you're going against the good intentions, you know, it's going to be a bad outcome kind of thing. Yeah, listening to the gut. All those times I didn't, you know.
Putting good energy out there. Right? Creating more good for the world so that it comes around full circle.
Yeah.
If you could give the person who was in Olivia's shoes, let's say in 2013, one piece of advice, what would it be?
I hate that question. Do you know why? Sorry, Kevin. Do you know why I hate that question?
Why?
Because this is so corny. And I've said this before, but I really don't think I would change anything. So if I'm going back to give myself advice, it's like, don't do that. It's like, I've made such peace with it that like you know, if I didn't make stupid decisions, the daughter I have now wouldn't be here. Or like I wouldn't have ended up here. If I didn't make these dumb decisions, I wouldn't have the husband I have now and like the career I have now. It's weird, but like, I don't know. I can't imagine it different. So it's hard for me to like change it. And I swear I'm not trying to be prophetic when I say that. I genuinely just like really wouldn't change it.
Let me ask you this. I have a good way of putting this now.
Okay.
So yes, you are 100% correct. You have both of your daughters, and things were meant to go a certain way. I think we both could agree that you are alive today.
Yeah.
You defied the odds.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
No,
I shouldn't be alive.
100%.
So I think for someone else to go down that same path and roll the dice and get the odds that we got, slim to none.
Yeah.
So we're lucky.
Yes.
So I think the advice, and not putting words in your mouth, but
No.
just, I think from a using perspective, maybe not so much just like a whole,
right.
Scenic route that you did take and bad decisions that you did make, but let's say from like the drug standpoint.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to say to somebody out there using, like, keep
100%.
going and suck because you'll like it one day. Not what I mean.
No.
Whoa. I just meant for me personally. I mean, the advice be like you don't need that, and if you just like hang on, you'll realize you don't need it, or just kind of like I would tell myself I was worth more, and like to act like it.
No, that's great. You're not alone too. Like there are places out there that you're going to come across that you're not alone.
Right. Like there's like research articles written about people like you because it's a common thing. Like it happens. Like there's medical terms for what you're experiencing because it's real. And I think people that aren't addicts need to understand that, because that would go into what I'm saying about the stigma. Stigma drives me up a wall, So it's all tied together.
It's crazy you say that, because when I was in like the, obsessive compulsivity of my disease and using, and there was a stigma, and there wasn't as much like medical research done, and like, it was a disease, but like, people are like, it's a disease. Now it's like really believed that that alcoholism and addiction is a disease.
Yeah.
And even knowing that, I still was so ashamed to say it about myself, even though, and it's not a cop-out. It's not saying playing victim. It's not, because I did make some of the choices that I did make, and I'm accountable for those choices that I made.
Right.
And the actions I took. But I feel like I, for a very long time, just felt like I was very ashamed and I felt alone. And there's medical research now today to show that you're not alone. And it's okay to talk about it and ask for help, and even just grab someone, pull someone aside and talk to them, because you never know what someone's going through.
Yes.
And they can also get you the help that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's the most isolating thing in the world. And the shame and stigma keeps people from getting help. And like what I was saying in the hospital setting, where I've had, I've disclosed to patients on a very limited basis, they've talked about how the nurses won't come in their rooms or like make up whatever, and it's like, if we remove that, you're going to have more people looking for help. Because if you turn everywhere and everybody's just like, and you stigmatize people,
nobody's going to ask for help.
It's better than it used to be, but being out there's more people, I think, now that will be willing to help.
Yeah.
So I feel like trying to not succumb to like the bad thoughts that like everybody's judging you, or keep that as a barrier, because it was a barrier for me forever, telling the truth, because you don't want to tell anybody the deep down dirty stuff you're taking a part in, because it's not good,
Keep those for meetings.
Yeah.
That's very well said, though. Olivia, thank you so much for coming
Thanks.
up here rather, and being on the podcast. You're a miracle.
Thanks, Kevin. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.